everyone! So lately I have been wondering if maybe I might be getting a little bit too gobby. This is because my mum recently said to me, "Your mouth is going to get you in trouble, young lady." Putting aside the connotations of that for a moment, I think I probably am a lot more outspoken these days than I used to be. And that is because whilst for the first maybe 9 or 10 years of my life I was fairly confident and chatty, by the time I started secondary school I was so badly bullied that from that point onwards, probably up until my late 20s, maybe even early 30s, I would not say boo to a goose. I'm serious. I was bullied on the school bus when I started secondary school to the point where I was genuinely suicidal. That's how awful it was. And I said basically nothing to any of those bullies, apart from one. Because you see, I've always had this little part of me that is buried somewhere very deep, but if you push it, I will explode. And there was one of the bullies who was kind of very short compared to the rest of them, and he was also younger than the rest of them. He was closer to my age, and one day I happened to catch him when he was on his own, and I was with my friends, and he walked past and he called me the name that the bullies always called me, and something happened. That little button somewhere inside me got pressed, and I lost my mind. I properly did a full-on, "What did you just call me?" Now, bearing in mind at the time I was probably about 13, I was even shorter than I am now, and I probably looked pretty weird, like standing up, pretending I was tough, and being like, "Wah!" towards this boy. And he did kind of laugh at first. Because then I followed him, just shouting at him, "I said, what did you call me?" And he repeated what he called me, and I went, "What's my name?" And that's when I discovered that he literally didn't know what my real name was, in spite of the fact that we went on the same school bus every single day and had done for probably a year by that point, and in spite of the fact that he knew people who knew me and we went to the same youth club every week, he didn't know my name. He only knew the name that the bullies called me, and I saw red. I kept yelling at him, "What's my name?" until he finally snapped and said he didn't know. And I told him what my name was. I said, "My name's Emma." And he was like, "Okay." And I went, "What is my name?" He said, "Emma, your name's Emma." And I said, "What do you call me from now on?" And he was like, "Emma." And he never bullied me again. And the moral of the story here is I probably should have been more mad all of the time. Maybe that's not the moral, but I'm sure there is one somewhere. That boy was kind of an anomaly because the rest of the time when I was being bullied, I just put up and shut up because I was scared. It kind of had a knock-on effect. I learned to just shut up. In my 20s, I was quite shy as well. I kept myself to myself, and then unfortunately I fell madly in love, as you do, with an absolute arsehole. That relationship was really toxic. He was not particularly pleasant. He was deeply abusive, in fact. And that, again, was a situation where 90% of the time I said nothing. All of my confidence had been eroded. I was having these mind games played with me, and I kind of figured, well, this is all my fault. I deserve it, so I should just shut up. And then there came this turning point, because you see, I had a lot of therapy from an abuse charity, and I spoke to my support worker a lot about what I'd been through and how I felt that it all went back to when I was a kid and I was being bullied on the school bus. I just didn't have it in me to stand up for myself. I would allow people to talk to me in ways that nobody deserves to be spoken to. And she said, "Is that how you want to carry on?" And I realised, no, I want to be somebody who stands up for myself. I'm not sure where the actual changeover happened, but I do know that there came a point where I got fed up of just being quiet and taking crap from people and decided that no, if you talk to me like rubbish, I'm going to talk to you like rubbish back. Or I'm going to go really passive aggressive because I can do that. For example, I was once driving my mum's car and I parked in a space, and I didn't notice as I was pulling into the space that the man who'd parked the car next to mine, well, my mum's, had parked over 2 spaces. So when I tried to turn into the space, it wasn't a full space and I bumped his car as I was going in. That guy lost his mind. He started yelling about women drivers and how I was a stupid girl, and I didn't appreciate it. So I just waited and waited and waited, and when he got fed up of yelling at me, I went, "Are you done now?" Yeah, I probably will get into trouble one day. But I carried on and said, "You've just yelled and yelled and yelled at me and not even allowed me the opportunity to say, 'I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to hit your car. However, you've parked over 2 spaces, which is kind of selfish in a car park this busy. Secondly, there's not any damage to your car. There's a buff mark, but if you get a cloth and some hot soapy water, that will buff right off." He was mad. He did not expect me to speak back to him. He thought he was just going to be able to yell and yell and yell, and I would just take it. But I didn't. It remains one of the highlights of my newly found confidence, because I did swap addresses with him. I did say, "Look, get in touch with your insurers. I'm insured. These are my details." And I waited for a call from my insurers to say, "Somebody has claimed that you hit them." And it never came. Instead, maybe 4 days later, I had a letter through the post from that man apologising for the temper tantrum he had at me and telling me I was right all along. I don't know, maybe that was the turning point, but certainly nowadays I don't take any rubbish from people. And that doesn't mean that I go around starting arguments. It doesn't mean that I immediately get insulting or nasty with people if they start something with me. But I don't take rubbish from people. Now, some people do not like that in a person. For example, one of the things that made me wonder if I'm a bit too gobby is that in the last couple of months, somebody who once upon a time was a good friend of mine told me that she thinks I don't listen to anybody and I get aggressive and talk over people. Now, for clarification, I would like to say that the reason she thinks this is because we had previously had a row that went like this. "You haven't got a clue what you're doing, and I think that you need to be more mature, and I think that this was wrong, and I think that you're wrong, and I don't like the things you say on Facebook because you have different politics to me. Pointing your finger at me. I think that you are just annoying, and don't dare say anything back. I'm talking right now. You are going to listen to me because you are bad and stupid, and I have... Will you just stop? Okay, it's my turn now! Shush. So yeah, I don't get aggressive and talk over people, but I'm not just going to take a load of rubbish coming my way either. I don't think I realised how gobby I'd actually become, despite that, until quite recently when I made a complaint against a local firm. I won't bore you with the whole story, but suffice to say I had a little bit of a bump in my car, and I will always maintain that it was not my fault because I had a massive truck coming towards me down a single track lane at quite a speed, expecting me to reverse all the way back for them. And every time I panicked and was like, I'm gonna hit something, they continued to drive at me and the drivers were laughing. Well done, chaps. Doesn't make you look like misogynist pigs at all. Once I had calmed down after I did indeed bump a bloomin' wall, I composed myself and made a complaint. A few days later, I received a phone call from the boss of those men in that truck, and the very first thing he said was, "Oh yeah, hello love. Listen, just ringing to tell you I've looked at our dash cam footage after you made the complaint, and quite frankly, all I can see is that you're all over the road, love. You don't even know how to reverse in a straight line." I couldn't believe it. The complaint I had made was that it was obvious I was having a difficult time and the truck was coming towards me without stopping, making me panic more whilst the drivers were laughing at me. Well, driver and his passengers. There was only one driver. You know what I mean. And here was this guy phoning me to basically confirm what I'd said. So I told him, do you make a habit of phoning women and insulting them? Because that's what you've just done and I want an apology now. I don't know where it came from. I think I was having quite a stressful day already because I know that once upon a time I would have gone, I'm sorry, bye, and just hung up. But something inside me snapped. There's clearly a button somewhere that if you press it, I just go, no! Anyway, this guy carried on and told me, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but obviously, I'm going to speak to the team about their behaviour. Not that they did anything wrong. Their behaviour was absolutely fine, but I will have a word with them about it anyway. So I said, if your team have done absolutely nothing wrong, why do you need to talk to them about their behaviour? Actually, I think you've been bloody rude. Anyway, I didn't get any kind of compensation and they didn't fix the damage to my car, but I did get an apology. And it was that conversation on the phone that my mum responded with, that mouth of yours is going to get you into trouble one day, because I don't like being put in a position where people think they can talk badly to me. That said, I probably do need to learn when to zip it. Just because some people are responsive and will be taken aback maybe by you sticking up for yourself, but they will back down. Some people might just stab you. And I don't want to get stabbed. I bruise like a peach. Where is the line? I genuinely am concerned that I don't know, because at the end of the day, I spent a lot of my life being really quiet and tolerating a load of rubbish that nobody should have to tolerate. And then something switched and now I am probably admittedly a little bit too quick to say,
Oi! That is not acceptable!
Where's the line? I do worry one day that I'll get punched or something. But I'm never, like I said, I'm not outwardly rude to somebody who hasn't been rude to me first. Or I do try and maintain some kind of calmness. I just don't tolerate when somebody is rude or aggressive or starts on me for no reason. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think I just need to learn when it might be a little dangerous to do it. How do you deal with these things? Are you somebody who reacts and says, oi, don't talk to me like that? Or are you somebody who is a little bit more like, oh, I'm going to just let that go? Tell me and maybe I will find a happy medium. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can click on my floaty head if you would like to subscribe, and last week's video is over there. I'll talk to you all next week. Take care, everyone.